Hey guys, this is Dave again with Valor Fire Training, and for our very next episode of Q&A, we have the one and only Chris Morrow, who is a captain of 5 Truck out of Lawrence, Kansas. And we've known each other for quite a few years in different capacities. We've seen each other at the 9/11 stair climb. We've run a couple calls together on the interstate, and he's also part of the Pipes and Drum Corps. So, he's out there in a kilt with questionably, probably no underwear, I'm going to guess.
The piper never tells the secrets.
I've heard that before. So so I appreciate you coming on, man. Chris has taught with us several times, and he's always been a huge asset when we go to classes. Just super knowledgeable dude, really, really good guy. We've had a lot of fun together over the years. And so when this question came up, he was one of the few people that came to mind first off. And so I wanted to reach out to him and kind of give him an opportunity to come on. So the question that came to us was, how do you look at company pride and why it's important to the company? And also, how do you get buy-in for your crew? So like, do you force it on them as a company officer, or do you kind of foster that environment? And I thought that question was really awesome because it wasn't just necessarily like, oh, company pride, company-wide, it's as a boss, And so when we look at things as a boss, this isn't the firefighter one book. This isn't the company officer one book. This is the shit that we do on a daily basis as company officers to be out there and be leading people. And so that's kind of why I picked Chris for that topic, because I felt like he, just in conversations that we've had about company pride over the years, was going to be a really good one. So Chris, I'm going to let you take it away, kind of talk about your experience with company pride and how you do it and what you think is the best way.
All right. Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me on. This is a first for me, so we'll make the most of it. Just from the topic right offhand, I think it's a great topic. It's a very important topic to me. Personally, I'll just go back from when I was a younger firefighter, rookie, growing up in Lawrence, with volunteer services, and then when I made full time. I can say that time has probably changed for me. I've had great officers, I've had some good officers, and I've had some okay officers. I'm not going to say I ever had bad officers. It was just, the okay, they're good and they're great, right? So, and guys probably experience this throughout their career as well. But for me, where I've learned that firehouse pride, that company officer pride, it all starts with the company officer, bottom line. There are some days when I come in, I'm tired. It's been a long tour. We're getting beat up at night. But you have to it starts with attitude, number one. You have to have a positive attitude, and that rubs off on guys. Even guys that are traditionally have bad attitudes, your great attitude can rub off on them. And I think everybody's probably experienced that once or twice. So I always think, like I said, it starts with the company officer. I come in every day, and I've been on as a captain now, 8 years as a captain. I spent 6 years with one crew. And I sat down with them, and then I've gone to another crew here in the past year, and I've sat down with them. I think number two, it starts number one attitude, but number two is expectations on what you as the officer, whether you're a captain, lieutenant, acting officer, if you have those in your department, it starts there. And the expectations, and you have to sit everybody down at the kitchen table together. And I have a piece of paper, it's about 4 or 5 pages long. Here are my expectations, and it ranges from attitude to we're eating dinner every night together, because that's important to me.
That's a huge thing. Yeah,
exactly. It's family time, so we call it in Lawrence. To training and what to expect from everyone on calls. Everybody has a role for whatever type of emergency we respond to, and it goes from the point, well, we're always wearing bunker gear on these types of calls, just bunker pants on these types of calls. Now, some people may look at that as micromanaging. I don't. It's setting expectations. I know the micromanager group will label me that way. Maybe not. I don't really care. But my guys, I just set expectations, and they know what to do. And it's all starts there with from day one. And everybody that I have worked for as an acting officer, lieutenant, and captain have bought into that. And that's what it's all about, is buying into what is set forth by that company officer.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point. So, when we as a culture, have historically kind of frowned upon the go-getters. And, I think that culture is changing in the American Fire Service. I don't think that we'll ever get rid of it completely. But I know I've been labeled as the department asshole because I'm the guy that wants to go out and train all the time, or I want to make sure that we all sit down together and have meals together. You know, I got one guy on my shift who I love the dude to death. He's the medic opposite of me, but he, for his own reasons, and we let him make that decision, he decided that he wasn't going to eat with us. And, you know, I don't care whether it's financial or, you know, religious or whatever. If you don't want to eat with us, that's fine. He makes up for it in other ways. But even though he's not eating with us, he'll come sit with us. You know what I mean? Like, he's not buying into the meal. He's not cooking with us, but he'll at least sit in the kitchen with us and he'll talk. And so he makes up for it in that other respect. But when you set expectations, did you ever feel like people kind of push back against it at first, or did they just kind of go along with it? Like, yeah, we're all going to do this.
You know, you meet some pushback on it, but in my experience, this is just my experience. I felt less pushback than others. And it goes along with things like, I'm not a uniform Nazi, number one, but I feel that my crew, you have your shirt tucked in every day. You look presentable. You look professional because, damn it, you are a professional fireman. I polish my boots at least once a tour, if not every day of the tour, if I can, depending on how busy we are. I encourage guys to do that. I'm not a Nazi and like, you have to shine your shoes right now, but I like guys to look professional because, and the saying's out there, and we've all heard it across social media platforms. When someone calls 911, we don't want some dumbass showing up and not knowing what they're doing and looking like a slob. They want professional firemen showing up. Kids look up to us. Grown men and women call us to fix their problems, and the older folks look at us as the good old days, and I honestly believe that. And they want smart, knowledgeable, competent firemen showing up, and I think looking the part is just as important as acting the part. And that's just the way I feel. And those are expectations. I just set those from day one. Let guys, you're going to have your shirt stuck in. You're going to look good. I'm not going to walk around and hold a uniform show for the first 5 minutes of shift, but I will call you out on it. And I have before. And guys are like, okay, fine, I'll tuck my shirt in. It's not a problem for me. Like I said, backlash hasn't been a huge problem for me, but I have talked to officers that it's just a daily issue they deal with. And I'm like, well, sorry, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, we moved away from, and I've always been a stickler for this. You know, I grew up in an era where, you know, the daily uniform was either, you know, blue pants with a t-shirt or blue pants with a dress shirt and a badge and a name tag. And there was no in between. You know, we didn't have polos. We didn't have the other stuff. You know, I don't think the polos really came around until, you know, after a few years, after I got into the fire service, because the expectation was that everybody was either going to look really professional, or if you were working out, or if you were in the middle of, you know, doing truck maintenance or whatever, you were wearing a t-shirt, and that was understood. And so now today, if I walk into the station and have my dress shirt on with my badge, people are like, did somebody die? Yeah. Like, what are you dressed up for? I'm like, because I want to look nice. And they're like, oh, that's just, we got t-shirts. And I'm like, I don't want to wear a t-shirt. I don't want to wear a polo.
Yeah. It's all about, you're part of something bigger than you, bigger than life. Honestly, you're in the fire service, and that uniform is part of you 24/7, whether you're in the firehouse on a call or at the bar on Friday night. And that's something I push onto the new recruits. I did a recruit class last year, and my day one, I lit into their asses and told them, and just like Aaron Fields, I'll quote Aaron Fields, you won the lottery. You're on the fire department now. You have the best job in the world. I don't care what anybody tells you. That's my thoughts too. And this badge that you wear on your shirt now, you represent yourself, your family, you represent me and everybody else in this department 24/7. And if you're the jackass down in the bar on Friday night with the police getting called, you're going to you're getting a phone call from me. No question.
That never happens. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've all been there. I know we make mistakes. But yeah, it is what it is. I try to push that on them from day one. You're for the rest of your career now, and even after you retire, honestly, you represent that badge that's on your shirt, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, and two, you know, the way you look is one thing, right? And the aesthetics of, you know, showing up in a clean truck, showing up with a good uniform on, acting professionally, the aesthetics of that are great for the community, but on the backside of that, you got to be able to back that shit up. And I think that that is kind of where I've noticed that there are some organizations and even some officers and firefighters who, you know, they look the part. I mean, they come pulling up and you're like, damn, that's a really squared away crew. They look like they really know what they're doing. And then they actually start doing work and you're like, I need a hole punched in the ceiling that big. I need the whole ceiling taken down. And they're like, oh, okay.
Strong, competent firemen. There's a saying that I've heard somebody say that if you manage a clown house, when you get on scene, it's going to be a clown house. If you run respect, pride, and organization in your firehouse, it's going to bleed out on scene, and guys are going to work and get done what needs to be done quickly and professionally. And so it all starts in the firehouse. You know, we're all, yeah. Don't get me wrong, Dave. We joke and smoke and grab ass sometimes. I get it. That happens. And I'm all for it.
It's a firehouse. That's, yeah.
Yeah, you bet. We work hard and we play hard, but you know, when the bell rings, my guys and gals know it's time to go to work, and the bullshit stops right there.
Yeah. Well, and I use this as an example. Some of the viewers probably aren't familiar with Nebraska Furniture Mart, but here in Kansas City, we actually have a local big box, you know, furniture store. They have pretty much everything. Like, it's a really high, it's a high dollar Walmart is basically what it is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they have it's a very different culture there. And so their security force, they wear white pressed shirts with badges. I mean, they look like police officers, minus I wouldn't even put them in the realm of security guard. I mean, their truck says security, but when they get out, you're looking at them and you're like, wow. And so I was walking into Nebraska Furniture Mart one time, and the security officer actually had commendation bars. And I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, like, what's up with the commendation bars? And he kind of laughed. He goes, I retired, you know, after after being a police officer. He goes, they give out these commendation awards for different things. Like, if you have, you know, saved a certain amount of dollar of theft, you get an award. If you have had so many positive reviews from your superiors, you get a deal. And then he goes, and this one's like a life-saving award. And I was like, whoa, go back. Said life-saving award. And he goes, yeah. He said, we've actually had, he goes, usually on average, we have 1 to 2 cardiac arrest saves every year in one of our stores. And I was like, really? He goes, oh yeah. He said, we train every month on CPR and using the AED. And when we're patrolling out in the parking lot, we've had multiple times where we've stopped because somebody was just sitting in the car for a while and they're having a diabetic emergency or, you know, whatever. And it just got me thinking. I'm like, okay, not only do you look better than some of the crews I've worked with, you act more professional than some of the crews that I work with. You know, so I think that there's almost kind of, and this is my opinion, I think that sometimes we put ourselves on a pedestal like, oh, well, we're firefighters and everybody will respect us no matter what. And so I started using that. I'm like, hey, just so you know, the security guy at Nebraska Furniture Mart looks more professional and acts more professional than you do. And it was a slap in everybody's face because they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, go to Nebraska Furniture Mart and talk to them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what profession you're in. Take pride and ownership. It's the bottom line. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't care if you're scooping shit off the street. Do a good job at it and look the part. You know. Now, I'm not saying the guys that show up with their shirts untucked aren't doing a good job. That's just me personally. I think looking professional is part of it. And a lot of that draws back. I was not in the Marine Corps. I was not in the U.S. services at all. But I know several guys, and I have a couple Marines on my crew. One who is a Marine sniper. Now, you want to talk about a intimidating guy that can do things to you that you don't wish on anyone. You can tell, and I think several people will vouch for me. You can tell a Marine when they walk into the room. Yeah. Out of anybody in the Army or whatever, they're just squared away people, and that's what I just asked for. I like to be guys to be squared away. I think it's great.
Yeah. So, what do you tell people when they try to explain to you that pride doesn't really matter? Like, I've had people tell me in the past, like, oh, at 3:00 in the morning when you show up at grandma's house and she fell on the floor, she doesn't care whether your shirt's tucked in or not. And I wholeheartedly agree that if I call 911, that's not what I'm focused on. You know, if I'm the citizen, I'm not looking at that. But I do think that at some point when people walk in, you're going to notice certain things. You know, if their hair's all jacked up, if their breath stinks, if their shirt's untucked, those are all going to kind of make you think, man, that just really didn't feel right. So what do you tell people when they try to tell you that?
And I agree with you. Yeah, grandma doesn't care. We're there to help them. I put it this way. Those that have kids, or maybe you have a little brother and sister, when I go somewhere with my family, and I have 2 daughters and my wife, when I walk into a room, I'm proud of who I'm with. They look good. They're beautiful. And people look at me like, wow, that guy's got a beautiful family. Everybody's given that compliment that has those families or soon to have families. And that's a great feeling. And I feel the same way about, it's just that the term pride, it's a broad term. And one of those, for me, pride shows when I have 3 strapping young men. I say young because I'm getting there, right?
Because we're all getting there.
Yeah. And these 3 strapping young men who are smart, intelligent, competent firemen, I have pride in that. And these guys are going to do anything they can to help you, give you their shirt off their back for you. That's pride to me. Clean trucks. My guys will vouch for it. My God, I drive them crazy. I like clean trucks. I personally, my truck and my wife and my daughter's cars are always clean. I like clean cars. It's just something that I grew up with. My dad taught me that. So clean trucks, a clean station. We have visitors all the time. When they walk into the house, and I can tell, I've been to big cities, just like yourself, Dave. I've been to FDNY quarters. I've been to Chicago quarters. I've been into a lot of big city fire stations, and you can tell who the pride and ownership crews are. Yep. In the busiest, dirtiest, nastiest ghettos around, those are the cleanest stations that you'll walk into, because they got pride for everything, and they're lucky to be there, and they're damn proud to do the job. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think you and I had this conversation when we were up in Nebraska, but I went to Chicago and we stopped by several stations. This was on a family trip. But we stopped by several stations, and we went to one that was, it was a sketch neighborhood. Like, I was looking around and I'm like, man, like, this isn't really my jam, but that's cool, whatever. And so I was actually stopping by to see somebody that I had known through Facebook, and so to meet them in person was really cool. But yeah, I walked in, and I mean, their kitchen was shit. Just tiles falling off the walls. They had the old ceiling tiles that were like the artistic, style. And you could tell that like they had tried to update some stuff, but it just wasn't even updated. Like they did the last update in 2000 or 95 or whatever. But anyway, when I walked into the kitchen, every coffee cup was lined up. The pots and pans were hung, and they were all clean and dry and looked nice. Like they had taken time to scrub them out. The bay floors were impeccable. Lines were painted on them, and they were perfectly straight, and they were actually painted over multiple times. You could tell, but I asked him, I said, how many times do you guys paint the floors? He goes, usually about once or twice a year. We'll make sure that they're touched up. And so, yeah, they got handed a turd, but they still had enough pride to make it something.
Yeah, that's we spend a third of our lives at the firehouse. That's my second home. I treat it just like our house. You keep it clean, you take care of things. I get it. There's some cities that the funding isn't there, and they do live in some shit boxes, not gonna lie. But you can tell that pride and ownership, that company pride, that even though we can't call the city and they come fix us, we'll do it ourselves. We'll throw our money together. Let's go buy some paint. Let's make a kick-ass kitchen table, whatever it may be. You can tell that pride and that sense of pride and ownership and wherever you go.
Yeah. So, we kind of talked about the civilian side of things, and I feel like we wouldn't be doing it justice if we didn't talk about within the fire service culture. And I feel like we touched on a little bit before, but in a broader sense, if your company has pride and you're more prideful, or the most prideful company in a department or a battalion or whatever, I have found in my experience, and I know I've talked to other brothers and sisters who feel the same way, that you kind of get labeled as, the cocky crew, or, you show up on a fire, and if you're the first one to pull a line and run past the crew at the door who's fucking around, not putting their stuff on fast enough, to you and I, we always laugh because it's like, all right, we're going to go put the fire out. Have fun. We'll see you when we come back out.
I have beat a crew into their first due, and there was no better feeling, I'll be honest with you. When they were coming around the corner, we've got lines stretched already in the fire. We're about to make entry. That's another, like I said, pride is a wide term. So that's one of them, but also that, and I tell my guys too, if we don't think we're good, nobody else is going to.
Right.
Yeah, those terms are out there. We've all heard them: the rogues, the grinders, the one percenters. Those guys.
Yeah.
I want to be. I want to be those guys. I want people to talk bad about us. Sure, talk. I don't care. Talk shit about us. But you see what when we go to work, you'll see why we think we're good, and we are. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and for multiple reasons, you know why I love that cup from, and I'm going to throw it out. You know, Eric Hill from California made those cups for coastal fire training, and it says "Befriend the firemen that everybody talks shit about."
Yeah.
And for multiple reasons, that cup is super applicable to me. So, you know, but again, it's one of those things where I would rather be labeled as I would rather catch shit from other firefighters and other people because I'm wanting to be better and because I want to do better as a crew. You know, as a company officer, I've always pushed for that. As a firefighter, I've always pushed from the bottom up. Even as a interim EMS, whatever I was, EMS supervisor, kind of over the whole entire EMS service, for 6 months, I was like, hey, these ambulances look great. Thank you for keeping them clean. You know, make the cot so that when you look at it, you would want your grandma sitting on it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of something that I think has been ingrained in our heads. And I know that there's others out there, but I also respect the fact that there's people that come into work and don't care, and it doesn't matter to them.
And we call those, you know, and I think we talked about this in Nebraska. There are firemen and then there's city employees. Bottom line, in my plug here, the pride and ownership with Chief Lasky and Chief Salka, I personally sat and talked with those guys, and Chief Salka had great input. He goes, I come from a big city. We have truck, we have engine, we have rescue, and they have a certain job. You guys that work in these smaller communities, not FDNY, have to be good at everything. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have 17 trucks coming to back you up at every fire. Some of you live on an island. We somewhat do in Lawrence. I mean, we call for help. It's a good 20, 30 minutes for us. So we are kind of somewhat on an island. So we have to be good at everything by ourselves for a while. And that's another sense of pride. We train like nobody's business. And it comes back. We talk about pride with training. We're more of a younger department now. I saw that some of the older guys that I grew up in the fire service with, they're the ones, kid, you're not going to teach me anything. I don't want to go to training. But when you get them to training and you start training with them, and you've had people come to you later go, hey man, thanks a lot. I didn't realize I couldn't do that, or I didn't know as much as I did. And I'm not saying I know everything, because I know I don't. I'm a nobody from nowhere for certain. But you just get those guys. And a lot of time I found that guys that don't want to go train or are afraid to go train is because they're afraid because they're going to get called out on something, or they're just not as competent as they think they are. And that sucks to me. I'm not going to call you out. I'm going to train with you. You know, our motto, we don't want to train you, we train with you. And I take that to heart. Like I said, I don't know everything. I'm going to learn something from you, whether you think it or not. And I'm going to show you what I know. Keep the chain going, keep the train going, pass this along. Like I mentioned in Nebraska, and you heard me and everybody else, that as long as you learn one thing, I don't care what it is, one single thing, but promise me, when you go back to your department, pass it on. Teach somebody else what I taught you today. If you learn something from me, awesome. But keep the chain going and invite those folks back to learn more. So,
yeah. Well, and so a couple of days ago, I was actually doing the interview with Lex Shady, and I've done. Let's see, we've had John Buttrick, we've had Chris Tennyson, we've had Lex Shady, we have you, Matt Adkins, and it's so funny to me that, you know, even Justin Lawrence and down in Oklahoma, it's the same statements keep coming up. And that's why I smiled so hard when you said, you know, pass it along, like take that information, take that knowledge and pass it on. Every single person that has been on this show so far has had that same sentiment, and they've been taught that by the person before them, and that person was taught before them. And so, yeah, I think that it's awesome. One thing that I will say, and if you guys are not familiar with Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical, where you work, it is probably one of the most ornate fire departments I've seen around here in the Midwest. There are some up in Wisconsin. I know there's like Mount Horeb where they have 3 Q sirens mounted on their bumper. Like even the person in the back has a foot pedal to do the Q siren. It's insane.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it sounds cool in theory, but it's a little much. But your guys' fire trucks, your ambulances, your chief's cars, they are impeccably built, impeccably outfitted, just lots of chrome, bells, Q sirens. I mean, they're great trucks, and even the ambulances are awesome. So how did that come about? I mean, do you think that that's a pride thing?
I think that was a pride thing. Our former Chief Bradford, was a huge image guy. He liked the shiny trucks, the pretty trucks. And I think it continues now with Chief Coffee. He likes that pride and ownership in our equipment, our stations. We are fortunate. I know, and I've been in the firehouses there. Like I said, I called them shit boxes earlier, and there are some. I'm like, oh my God, you guys live in this place 24/7. This is amazing. And and that's one thing I hear guys complaining about, whatever it is about the job or the administrative staff. It's like, okay, look around you, look at these trucks, look at the equipment. You have 2 sets of bunker gear now. How many people can say that? We have top of the line hose, nozzles, trucks, stations, utility vehicles, our training. We have a brand new training tower. We have it all. I mean, honestly, there's nothing that we don't need.
I mean, I heard that you guys have gold-plated Halligan bars. I'm saying that's what I heard. I haven't seen it.
We keep those on the top shelf. The top shelf is what it is. They come out when the college students. Yeah, we like to show off. Yeah, in front of the college students. So.
Yeah. No, but I mean, again, it's one of those things where when you see Mass Street, for those of you that aren't familiar, Mass Street is kind of like the big central run through that goes through downtown Lawrence. And it's where all the bars are. During the summer, it's nothing but college students running around. And so, to watch Engine 1 come rolling through downtown, it sounds cool. And then when it turns the corner and you're like, damn, that's a nice fire truck. It's just cool, man,
Yeah. Engine 1 was our apparatus teams are just outstanding. Chief Fagan is one of our new chief. We got him from Lee Summit, and he's just been outstanding to work with the guys on the apparatus team. I'm not one of them, but I've got a couple guys on it. And we're coming around full circle now, designing smaller engines with intakes on all 4 sides, low hose beds. We're getting back, keeping up with times. Traditionally, in the past 10 or 15 years, we've been primarily a Quint department.
Sure.
It is what it is, but like I said earlier, we have to do more with what we have on our island in Lawrence, and so Quints have worked for us. But we are speccing out a new engine. I will no longer be on 5 truck. I'll be on engine 5. So, and we're getting a tiller. We're jumping into the tiller game.
Oh, you guys are getting a bendy truck.
That's a whole new world. I've never even been up close to one of those trucks, so this is a huge learning experience for me. But I'll primarily be riding on the engine, which I'm completely okay with.
Yeah.
And the tiller is going to be our rescue truck. So we're kind of a cool transition for us, but it's going to be here next year. We should have those trucks in service.
Yeah, in the Midwest, especially here in the Kansas City area, Kansas City, Missouri has had, tiller trucks. That's nothing new to them. But here recently, it started kind of spreading out into the weeds, and there's a couple suburban departments in the Johnson County area who got them. I heard that you guys were getting them, and it's cool, man. I mean, how many people can say prior to, I would say 3 or 4 years ago when the Johnson County departments got theirs, they had never even, like you said, had never even been up close with a tiller. They had never even been up close to them.
That was always an East Coast thing. Tillers are on the East Coast. Kansas City's got a few. But yeah, I think we took that step. My district in the middle of the city in Lawrence, we have some urban areas, some tight streets, a lot of apartment complexes. I mean, tons of them. College kids, of course. It's college town, so we're going to have the dorms. So I think a tiller will work for us best with accessibility. And right now, like I said, on truck 5, it's an 88,000-pound truck, 2 axles. It's a wear and tear nightmare.
I'm sure.
That truck has been out of service more than it's been in service. Honestly, we joke about that. It was a big, heavy truck. We've dealt with it for about 10 years now, and we're going to part ways with it and go back to the old school engine. So pretty cool.
Sure. Well, and for you guys, and this is not indifferent for us either. You know, my department is a combination department, right, butted up against the Kansas City Metro. You guys are a little bit further out west, and it's so funny to me that when you guys have had these major incidents, you know, you're calling for departments that are, like you said, 20, 30 minutes away. And so you have to be cocky, like you have to know how to do your job. And so for the people that were like, we don't really need to do training, or we really don't need to keep our stuff in tip top shape, clean, proficient, working order, that wasn't an option for you. And so I like to see that the culture, I think right now in the fire service, is getting away from that. And we're starting to see people go out in the back and go, hey, let's just go flow water. And during that flow, they're like, hey, this nozzle isn't acting right. So then they're breaking the part, you know, breaking it down and trying to figure out what's wrong with it. 5, 10, 15 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. That nozzle would have collected dust, and maybe once a year it would have got flowed during hose testing. That's it, you know, other than jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to, once again, pride, what we've been talking about. Pull lines every day, get out and flow those lines. Especially with the newer folks, we're not running as many fires as we used to. We get our fair amount of job, you know, fire duty in Lawrence, but we're not Chicago, we're not LA, you know.
Right.
So that's why it's important. Get out, pull lines every day, be proficient on your stretches with a dry line. And then once that line's, get out and flow water. Know what, and I don't do math in public. The 150,
I know, we've taught classes together.
The 150s at 60s, the 170s at, you know, whatever the PSI and the gallons per seconds are. I think it's important for these kids, and I say that with respect, these new kids now coming to the fire service need to get that in their hands. Know what 150 at 60 feels like. And if you lose pressure, what's that feel like? If you're over pressured, what's that feel like? And knowing how to adjust, position yourself on the hose line. Are you an arm's length away from the nozzle? Do you need a backup guy? If he is, get his ass up here and back you up. We can't, you know, and like I said, we can't simulate hallway fires, but knowing how to flow, where to direct water streams. We have combination nozzles and we have solid bores, both on all of our trucks. So we're jumping into that solid bore side of it. Haven't sold everybody on it, but it's a training issue. Just get out and train with this stuff. Bottom line, it doesn't matter. And that goes for ladders. Like I said in Nebraska, I love ladders because you don't have to fuel them. You have to prime them. You have to pull start the damn thing. Just get them off the truck and throw them against the house. So that's
they'll work every time.
Keep it simple, but yeah, it goes for everything, especially hose lines. That's the bread and butter stuff. Get out in your district. That's another pride. Get out and let the public see you. Hey, these guys, 9 times out of 10, you'll have an apartment attendant come, hey, what's going on? Is there an emergency here? No, we're just preparing for that emergency. For God's sake, if it doesn't happen, hopefully, but if it does, this is why we're here. We're stretching these lines into your building, knowing, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's not the time to ask questions of what line I'm going to pull, what ladder I'm going to throw, or whether I need a saw or a Halligan to get in the back door of this place. Right. So get out in your district, do it.
Yeah. Amen. So the other part, and I want to kind of throw this out there too, I feel like, and this is a me thing, so, you know, somebody will find something to say about this, I'm sure, but if you're going to have pride in your crew, if you're going to have pride in your department, if you're going to have pride in all of those things, you have to have pride in yourself. And I think there are so many people out there who are so concerned about what other people think, or how, you know, God, if I do this, you know, I can't do that. Or what if I do this? And then 5 years down the road, I want to put in for driver, and they're going to remember that I kind of pushed back a little bit because I was so prideful. There's a difference between being prideful and being an asshole. That's two completely different things.
100% agree.
But for me, more than anybody, you know, I've done that where I've been like, oh man, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to end up on, you know, a website. I don't want to end up on a Facebook page. I don't want to end up on whatever because of what I said or what I did, even though I knew it was right. I'm like, man, I don't know if I really want to ruffle those feathers, but I had people like yourself and some of the other people who were like, dude, you got to have pride in your own shit. You know, you have to have pride in yourself in order to be able to kind of mold other people to have pride or support them in having pride. And so, you know, have you dealt with, as a boss, you know, have you dealt with anybody who just didn't have that self-confidence, that self-pride, and they just didn't have anything to give.
Yeah, I have, and I think it's up to that company officer to recognize that, what do you want to call it, a weakness or a lack of knowledge in a certain area. So I think that's important for company officers to recognize that, and don't criticize in public. Pull that person aside and say, "Hey, I've noticed you're not really competent on doing this. What would you like to know?" Pull that person aside, and hey, it's 8 o'clock at night. The rest of the guys are watching TV. Hey, you want to go out and work on this? But also, I have 11 gentlemen that I work with at my firehouse. And like I said earlier, I don't know everything. So I depend on these guys, and it's part of me to instill pride and that leadership in others. I have 11 guys that I can turn to if I'm not sure about something, or I've got guys that know everything about motors to those rope tech guru nerds.
Yep.
So I push those guys to, I'm one set of eyes, one set of ears, and one mouth, and one small brain. Okay, in the firehouse, I have all you guys here, and I'm backing you up. You're not backing me up. I'm backing you up, and so I instill that pride in those guys. Be assertive. Take action. I don't need to be around for you to call another guy out if they're doing something wrong. Do that. Jump in and say that. And so I use my crew, man. I have a wide range of knowledge, and I push those guys to make themselves better and make me better, to take that ownership and do what they need to do. So, but yeah, I've noticed that it's important to pick those guys out. The ones that are kind of the wallflowers, so they call them, standing back, that aren't really participating. I will call them out. Hey, so-and-so, come on up here. I want you to force this door, or you're going to pull the line next. And yeah, you're right. Firefighters hate two things: hurt feelings and change. Right. So I don't look at it as making fun of you, but I've been made fun of. I will never do that. I will show somebody maybe some mistakes that they've made.
Sure.
Here's how you fix it, because I've had people do that to me. I've had people not call me out on something, but pull me aside and go, "Look, I saw you did this. Yeah, some things went wrong. Try this next time." And so I try to pass that along to and do the same. It helps guys, and you'll see that light come on and that smile on their face start to develop. It's like, oh shit, yeah, I was doing it that way. Now it's better this way. Thanks for showing me that. And when somebody comes up and says thank you for showing me that means everything. So
well, you did it right when they come up and say thank you.
Yeah.
And there's two key points that you mentioned that I wanted to touch on, because when you said that different people have different strengths and weaknesses, and that you call upon your crew members to bring those expertise to the group, only like a few times in my career have the moons aligned. But there was one shift that really just stood out in my mind when you said that. There was one shift when we had an electrician, a plumber, a dude that did like carpentry, like built houses. We had a dude that was a sawyer that had a tree service. So like by the time it was all said and done, like we had every single fire service skill that was required. And then I made a comment about it, and then everybody just kind of looked at me and they were like, "Yeah." And then there's you. And I was like, "Well, screw you guys." Like, okay, but it's true. Like, I'm okay at a bunch of different shit. I'm not really good at, like, I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a roofer. I know a little bit about some of it, but you have to be able to.
It's important to have all that knowledge. I literally have somebody from all of those backgrounds on my crew, and I'm thankful for it. I'm grateful for it. I've got guys who can build a house to take a motor out of your truck and replace it in an hour and a half. I mean, it's just, it's valuable people. And like I said, I'm backing them up. They're my drive most of my days. They make me proud.
Yeah. And the other thing that you mentioned too is the, pulling people aside and not doing that in public is if you're going to kind of correct them. And I will say this, when we teach management stuff, and you've heard of this, you've seen me teach on several topics. When I do the management or leadership or company officer stuff, the one thing that we hear all the time is, man, that was like everything that's not in the officer one book. That's everything that's not in the company officer book. It wasn't how to do a memo. It wasn't how to do, which are all important things, but it was, listen, if somebody comes to you and says, "I feel like I'm being sexually harassed," your facial expression needs to look like this. You need to be empathetic. You need to be, all these things that don't get talked about in that book. But one of the things that we talk about a lot is how not to be an asshole. And that's legitimately what that part of the class is talked about, or is titled, is how not to be an asshole. And that's rule number one, is if you're going to call someone out, you don't have to do it right in front of everybody. You can pull them off to the side. And there's even been times where I've been on calls with other municipalities, like other departments, and they're just not getting it. Like extrication is a great example. They're just cutting away at the same spot. And I'm like, hey guys, if you move your cutter a little bit over to the right, maybe like 3 inches, that might actually get rid of that. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah,
and then, oh my God, you guys don't know what you're doing. And I find that the bosses that you talked about, the good, the great, and then the awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
The okay ones, they're the ones that are going to call your ass out in front of everybody. And they're going to make it a point to tell you that you did something wrong in front of the whole entire group.
Yeah, I tell all my guys, I'll never yell at you. I don't yell. I'm not a yeller. I don't think it solves shit. So unless, and I do tell them now, I will probably yell at you unless if you're going to kill yourself, someone else, or me, I'm probably going to yell. But I always criticize in public. I'll praise you in public and criticize in private. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I don't think yelling solves anything unless it's just necessary. Sometimes you have to be an asshole to stop what's going on. Whether that's on the scene or in the firehouse with something that's just maybe not safe, or maybe there's people in the room, and that goes back to being an officer. Know your people. What offends this person? What doesn't? Everybody, there's some people that nothing offends them, and then they're amazing. It's like, I'm one of those people, not much offends me. So, but we do have people on our crew that get offended by whether it's a political or a religion. I don't know,
They're just sensitive, Chris. They're sensitive.
Yeah, they are sensitive, and I respect that. You have to be. It's the world we're living in, and that's okay. We're all different people in our own ways and raised different. So, sometimes you have to call them out and just, hey guys, shut the hell up. We're not going to talk about this right now. You two can go talk about it in the bay, but not in here. So sometimes you do have to be an asshole, but yeah, just whenever the time comes, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think, to your point, you can be an asshole without everybody thinking that you're an asshole.
Oh, sure.
And that's the fine art. And it took me years and years and years to figure out how to, by the time I got done with the discussion, I'd walk into a room and, 4 or 5 people are all arguing about something, or somebody had pissed someone off or whatever it was. And by the time I'm done, I walk out of the room and later on I hear from the collective group that they were like, wait a minute, what the hell just happened? That's not supposed to happen. We're not supposed to stop arguing. Like, I could get them to chill out and kind of focus in on something. And even though I was being an asshole, like you said, they didn't have that perception because, it wasn't inflected towards them. I was trying to get their attention. I wasn't doing it to towards them. So yeah, it's definitely a fine art. And I wish that there was more of that in some of the officer development type stuff, like on the national scale. When we talk about going and getting a national certification, I took my certification classes and it was literally like, here's how you type up a memo. Here's how you send a fax. Here's how you do, 203 form. And I'm like, okay, I can learn that in a week. Like, I want to know how to actually be a company officer.
Or it's in your SOP, how to write those things. I mean, there's some SOP that we need to know, like on the spot. And there's some SOP I'm like, look, I'll just look it up. I need to write up an accident report. Okay, I'll find the form on the internet here and I'll type it up. I don't know by heart what the questions are on it and how to do it, but I can show you. I know where to find it. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, the pride and ownership that Chief Salk and Chief Lasky, I think that's great. It pushes the management side of being an officer. It pushes that out of the way, and it talks about being a leader, how to develop a crew on a day-to-day basis, from scheduling training to just being in the firehouse kitchen table and talking about things, just how to be a leader. That's a great class. So if anybody goes, I applaud you for that.
Yeah. And that was what, I saw him, it was when they came and did the class. I don't think Salka, it was just Chief Lasky. Chief Salka couldn't be there for this one, but it was up in the city of Leavenworth. And he was talking about I just laughed because I thought about when he was talking about the big ass cake. If somebody retires, it's a big ass cake. If they get promoted, it's a big ass cake. If they come back from medical leave, it's a big ass cake. If it's their birthday, it's a big ass cake. And so I laugh, but even on my captain's birthday, we went and bought a big ass cake. So I think that it holds true. And I definitely think that, for us moving forward in the fire service, I mean, where do you think we're going? Like, how do you, there's always going to be Mr. and Mrs. Smith, from Phoenix, Chief Brunacini. There's always going to be the big ass cakes from Lasky and Salka. Where do you see us going in the future with kind of that pride and ownership?
I think we're going in the right direction. I have been through my times of low morale and low leadership in my department, and I think we've taken a turn to that. I think it's up to us, the senior guys, the older guys on the department, to pass this stuff along to the younger generation. What a true leader means. Now, I'm not any perfect example of a leader, but I try my best. So I've told my guys, learn what you can from me. This is my leadership style. I'm completely different from Captain so-and-so and Captain so-and-so at different stations. But take what you can from me. Throw part of it away if you don't like it, but keep some of it. But I think just teaching these younger kids have pride in what they're doing each and every day, from the firehouse to the trucks to the equipment, and themselves, number one. I don't know. I think we're going in the right direction. I see continue to go to classes like you and I and several of us out there. I've learned nothing against my department. I'm not bashing my department. I've learned more about leadership and training and the job going to outside training. So I push that out to guys. The Into the Job training coming up. I've got several guys going to that, which I'm proud of. It's going to be a great conference, but I think we're going in the right direction. So it's not up to me. I'm doing what I can, Dave. You're doing what you can. Everybody's doing what they can in their own world. But I think it's taking a good direction.
I think, yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think my biggest perception of this, why we're moving in the right direction and kind of what perpetuated it out into the forefront, was very much the social media, micro conferences, getting out there and doing more training. I mean, when everything was so regionalized, you were stuck on an island, and not even just your department, but I mean, my departments, every single one of them have been in the past stuck in their own little island. They did their own thing. They really didn't, anything that got taught in-house. And so, especially with, like you brought it, the Into the Jobs with Isaac Frazier and all the other amazing instructors that are going to be there. There's too many to name, but I mean, Danny Dwyer, Lombardo. I mean, everybody's going to be there. That's everybody. Not everybody. There's still going to be people that aren't there.
Yeah,
but
true.
It's going to be an awesome. Are you going?
Yes, I'm going.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to make sure we got bail money before we go down there. So I just got in the other day, and then I saw today that it was sold out. So
yeah, I did too.
Yeah, so it was perfect timing. But yeah, I mean, by us going out there and by us going and doing those types of trainings and being able to bring that back, and then if maybe we didn't hear something, we're like, oh man, I know that so and so said this. Now I can jump on YouTube and I can go find one of their lectures, or I can go jump on Facebook and find one of their classes where they're talking about whatever they were talking about at the conference. That social media aspect has just helped us so much in kind of pushing that whole thing forward. And it makes people from the bottom up be prideful, because before it used to come from the top down and it was almost demanded. Now it's just universally kind of accepted that it's, you have these pockets of crews that are just super prideful and don't take no for an answer.
Yeah. And a lot of us will take backlash on that. I mean, we go to training, we come back and we try to change something on our department. Whether it's a Mike Campo class he's from FDNY, a ladder class, or Aaron Fields teaching hose line. I've heard it in my own department. Who's this guy from Seattle? Why do we care how he pulls hose lines? I'm like, he's not changing the world he's just showing you a more efficient, better way. And just listen to what he's saying, take the class. You'll learn something. And so a lot of us meet, why do you go, who is this guy? Or you throw this name around. I was like, well, I've learned a lot from this guy. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He works in a big city. He's been to a lot more fires than I'll ever go to. and they stretch a lot more lines than I'll ever do. So it's just one of those things. Get out and learn. Yeah, the in-house training is one thing. And some guys, that's all they're going to do, and you're not going to change their minds. But we can try. We can always try. And
They
I've
can
had a
always
lot
say
of
no. That's my motto.
yeah, yeah. We've had our whole department, Nate Jameson, who's in Denver Fire now, Nate, who works with the nozzle forward cadre, and Nick Simon.
Yep.
They went to nozzle forward, came back and changed our entire department on how we load hoses, on how we pull hose lines. Made us better firemen, bottom line, on how we put fires out, how we flow water, when and when not to flow water, how much to flow. It's just really, this is bad stuff. If you don't like this, and I don't know what's wrong. I can't fix you if you think this is something stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but the funny thing is, so, the nozzle forward thing, and I'm going to pick on it for just a second. So, we've gotten to be friends with Aaron Fields and a lot of the cadre from nozzle forward, who are amazing people, and they're doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
I love the messages. Yeah, it's for them. And so, especially with that class, when it came here, I think their very first class outside of Washington State was up in Nebraska. And then really early on, it was Lawrence, Kansas was like one of the next few classes that are kind of mixed in there. But that class got Lawrence Douglas County to change their hose loads. It also got my department to change their hose loads. We've gone and done classes. We did an extrication class or a man and machine class combined with PL Vulcan, with Mark Gregory and his crew. And, we came back to my career department, and my captain was like, hey, chief, we need this, and this. And he put out a laundry list, and it completely changed how we do man and machine and vehicle extrication based off of the class that him and I took. So I think it's great that those things are actually happening. And I know that that's the unicorn. It doesn't always happen that way. Right. But it's awesome when it does.
Yep, and I'm proud of the guys. I'm not the only one. There's several of us that go to this outside training, and they'll bring back this stuff. That's my whole, and my chief will tell you the same thing. Hey, all right, we're going to send you this, but bring something back to change something or show us something, a different way to do it, or new equipment to buy. And in my book, we're winning when that happens. We're winning the game.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time to spend with us. I know it's kind of like in the middle of the afternoon. It was like, hey, we got 45 minutes. Where can we squeeze that in our day?
It's good fun. I've enjoyed it, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. I know we're going to have you back on again. There's multiple things that are going to keep popping up. The questions that we get are awesome. People send me questions, and a lot of them I will name drop who sent it. This person didn't want to be name dropped, and I understand why. Their concern was, hey, I'm in a department that's full of shit bags, and I'm trying to get answers, but I don't want to get in trouble. And so, rather than just make up a fake name, I'm like, whatever, I'll just ask the question. But we keep getting awesome questions. I can't thank everybody that's sending the questions in. Thank you. Keep them coming. Otherwise, we're gonna have to start making this shit up, and it's gonna be like smoothbore versus fog.
Right.
Because we could go on with that for hours.
For several hours, yeah. I have, if people have questions, like I said, I'm one guy from one department. I can give my email address out, my phone number. If they got questions, I'm more than happy to help you. And if I can't help you, I will certainly give you information or other contacts that can help you with whatever you need. So
absolutely. I'll put your contact info in the description. And, they can definitely, I know a few people have rattled it off on the deal. And then I'm like, let's get, you have to like rewind it 3 times to get the phone number. So we'll make it easier on the viewers. We'll go ahead and post it in the description. But yeah, man, that's the other cool thing is that I think, people in our area, in our realm, with kind of what we're doing, we're always accessible. And, I give out my personal cell phone number. You give out your personal cell phone number. And it's like, hey, don't be an asshole. Don't call me at 2:00 in the morning. If you got a question, shoot me a text or call me and ask, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're, like I said, us folks that we're going to these trainings, we want to make ourselves better. We are in a bubble. There's very few of us, but we're the ones that got to keep pushing for the better, to make us better at our jobs, and so we can perform at our top level for the communities we serve, man. Bottom line.
Yeah, amen to that. So, all right. Well, until the next time we talk, take care, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Chris.